The first thing in today's time of talent war, as I said, how to create a groundwork so that the industry in which you are working on, right? It could be a very niche industry like semiconductors. I will example from my own domain, very niche industry. It could be a pharmaceutical industry, it could be a chemical industry, it could be, very unique industry that has very limited talent base in the country. First role, I believe, a great HR partner from a talent perspective is doing the groundwork on how to find the talent in a shortest possible time to meet the business mandate. I've seen the teams, one reason for being successful or not successful is you just couldn't hire the person for a year. And the team is generally follows the good leader. And if the good leader is not being hired, generally the team also gets not hired, and you eventually end up compromising getting the average or people who are unfit for the role. So the first thing is how the person can act when the business manager is busy in commercial dealings and the day-to-day execution, how the groundwork can be done to scout for the top talent, where it is available, how they can be tapped, how a sleeping talent can be made active talent, what are the ways to attract a talent. So HR business partner can actually act on behalf of the business leader in being a brand ambassador of the company, brand ambassador of the division for which the role is being identified. And I've seen more often than not that the first interface from HR that talks to a talent, if that person has the right skills to create a positive atmosphere, positive momentum, right kind of touch points, you make a big difference in attracting the talent. So that is number one. And I will go short and then we can revisit the topic if required, right? The second is once the talent is being offered until the talent joins. This is the most crucial period. And different companies have different experiences. And I've seen more than 50% of people and drop down from the offer stage till the joining date. And worst case, it could be 90% because of the same thing, talent war. How a business partner is thinking like the business manager, that while my business manager is busy in doing the domain expertise and team execution, how I keep a tab on a weekly basis, on a bi-weekly basis, how I keep the excitement on by sharing the top highlights, the positive updates, whichever is in the public domain, so that the interest continued as it was on a day zero of the offer. And you carry the person just like carrying a toddler in hand until you join the organization. Now, joining the organization is not the end; it is actually beginning, because I have seen a lot of people got a negative impression about the group or a company if they have to sit idle for a long time on day one, or they don't get their login IDs or a laptop setups or a whatever relevant infrastructure they require to get operational. So the excitement of day one gets killed if all these things are not done proactively, and then after 2-3 days, even if you make everything arranged, right, the hit the ground running feeling doesn't come. So a very important role I believe is required in onboarding the person with literally a red carpet. Now, once that happens, the third most important point, which can create a very good glue with the organization, is whether you are an individual moving from one home to another or an employee moving from one organization to another. There are new things, new processes, new ways of working, new stakeholders. So how we create a informal channel for all his or her queries to get addressed without feeling any shame or shyness, that it's a small question or it's a it's not a good question to ask. So creation of buddies which can talk to them at their own wavelength, which can have the initial lunches with them and make them comfortable, which can help them for basic queries, how to get your uh, say cafeteria setup done, how to get your access cards, how to get your bank account if required, basic things. But that really makes a big difference in the comfort level. The fourth point, once all that is done, which I believe often get missed out, many organizations believe that once the person join, after that it is not my problem, right? But the real partner is like a shadow to the business manager. So wherever business manager is not able to do his or her job, that responsibility should be owned by the HR business partner. At least that's the way I think. Because the reason we are calling it a HR business partner is it's a partnership in business or whichever domain we are talking about. Right? So the end objective is not to get the person hired and pay the salary and take care of the processes like leaves and LTA and other reimbursements. The ultimate aim is to make business successful. That is the whole reason this the whole setup is being done. Now, HR business partner should be, you can say, additional eyes and ears to look out for which are the real gaps, which are the real challenges the manager is facing in running the operations, running the R&D, running the the whole organization. And since HR business partner has a domain expertise on people, there may be a blind spot in the business managers how to fill that gap. But if a HR business partner is aware of the business problem and who are the potential gap fillers, the process is called a succession planning. In many organizations is only a buzzword. But the real HR business partner would ensure that each employee in the team, what is their tenure in the industry? What is their tenure in the organization? How many years they are on the current role? What kind of a potential versus performance they are demonstrating? So something called 9-grid matrix, where you have the performance levels on x-axis and potential on the y-axis. So if the HR business partner is literally sometimes, giving the slight nudges and pushes to the business manager that we need to look out into the 9-grid box completion to all your direct reports. And we need to keep an eye the one who are high potential. And then the HR business partner know that, okay, these are my hidden jewels, which are ready to be hatched or groomed or coached. And at the right time, whether it is a new business opportunity or it is a sudden attrition in the team, these are the people who will fill the gap without business impact. To me, that will be the real impact of a IB-HR partnership, where you don't let any cracks where things slip through those cracks. So things like 9-grid metric and succession planning should be like, it's like should be in our DNA, should be in our blood. It should be something that people are living every day. It is not a annual exercise, when there is an external consultant telling us. It should be something ingrained in our culture. Finally, people growth. Again, in my experience, I have seen successful organizations are able to retain their people for not 1 year, not 2 year, but for much longer times. It could be decades. And these homegrown people eventually become the lifeline and the so-called reed ki haddi of the organization, because they are there as a role models and they are there to withstand any up and downs in the business. So how you create those pillars in the organization? So it's very important that a philosophy that once you identify your top talent, whether you use a 9-box formula or anything else, it doesn't matter. But once you identify your top talent, how to nurture them at an early stage and how to retain them. Again, trust me, the business managers will get busy in talking to customers, beaten up from the customers, running around and finding the the issues or holes, whichever department they are working, because life is not perfect. But as a sheet anchor role, HR business partner should be looking out that that grooming never stops. It's something like you catch them early, you train them early, and then you groom them for future. That should be the philosophy, uh, that creates a different organization. And ultimately, I've seen these organizations scale up, because if you are doing well, you always attract more business, you always attract more customers, and you just don't need to look out for hiring additional people, because you internally have such a banyan tree which has so many leaders which are getting birth every year, which are getting ready, as a new crop. So you just create a kind of a very scalable organization, by one differentiating factor, that you have a good IBHR leader, right? And last but not the least, just like life and death, there are cases where people leave. You cannot avoid it in today's time. So a good IBHR would take it with grace, will hand off them with grace. People who leave the organization, they are also as much as brand ambassadors as people who are in the organization. So once they leave, they should never feel hurt or bitter about how they were treated once they decided to leave. Right? It should be a similar experience as they joined. Right? There's always a reason. If we can hold them by talking, ideally, if we do all the good things that I just spoke about to reward the top performers, to cut the weeds, you actually don't end up in a surprise element, because then you are doing it, as I said, as a daily life, right? Then performance management is not a 1 day per year affair. It is happening daily. Manager is talking to the employees daily through the processes that IBHR can create. There could be arrangement of monthly roundtables with top talent, monthly roundtables with the top innovators, monthly roundtable with the stars of the company, recognition of the people who are getting more business, who are getting new customers. So nothing is surprise if a person leaves, right? But even if it happens, you treat them gracefully, you leave them gracefully, and do a sincere exit interview, so that even if there is a blind spot that remains, we take it humbly and fix it. And the journey from good to great should continue. Right. So
Sure.
sorry, a long answer to your short question, but that's what my life cycle would be.
No, no, thanks, Sanjay, for being so detailed in terms of the complete employee life cycle. And I think some of the key points which you talked about was creating a positive employee experience from the day a person join in, right? It can be probably as simple as helping him or her out to get the basic IT infrastructure or the basic admin ecosystem made aware of, right? We talked about deployment, demand fulfillment, how the HR business partner can work closely with the talent acquisition team and make the life of business slightly easy in terms of driving it, because eventually they have to see that they are part of the business and they are the one who are driving the show, right? So I think the shared responsibility. You talked about being the people advisor to the business leader. I think that's the very important aspect which you touch base on, because that is something which really helps in terms of managing the workload of the business leader. Uh, Sorry, Sujay, I think I lost you in between.
Yeah,